Not just as leaders in screen entertainment, but also as the work of artists, academics, educationalists, enthusiasts and independent developers. This great space is only possible because of the generosity of its supporters, and I'd like to thank Xenon for their continued support of the Games Lab. I'd also like to thank Sega Europe, THQ Asia Pacific, Nintendo Australia and Tezuka Productions for their support of Go Go Astro Boy, and Atari Australia and Chrome Studios for their generous support of Hits of the 80s. And it's Hits of the 80s, Aussie games that rocked the world, that we're here to celebrate tonight. And this is a really significant exhibition for ACMI because it gives us the opportunity to honour local Melbourne heroes and celebrate Australia's achievements in game development. The story of Beam Software Melbourne House is a great Australian story of a small pioneering company who made a major contribution internationally to the world of games. This exhibition is only a tiny taste of that rich history of Beam, this industry pioneer who created seminal and internationally best-selling titles in the 80s, which even today feature in current best-of lists. ACMI would like to thank Alfred Milgrom, Andrew Bailey, Greg Barnett, Russell Compt, Andrew Davey, David Giles, Marlene Lantzman, Bill McIntosh, Veronica Megler, Trevor Newridan and William Tang for their generous support in mounting this exhibition. And I personally would like to thank Helen Stuckey and Noya Hassel for the ACMI staff who have made this possible and who have worked so hard to make it happen. Alfred Milgrom and Naomi Beeson, through the creation of Beam Software Melbourne House, helped build the Australian games industry. And to open the exhibition tonight, I'd like to introduce Beam's co-founder, the man who launched game development in Australia, Alfred Milgrom. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, when people look back at the early 80s and they look at the games development then, they talk about a golden age in games development. They say that you never know when you're living in a golden age, and we certainly didn't know at that time that it was a golden age, but in retrospect I think that we can say it was. Let me take you back to that time. It was a time when there was no computer games industry in Australia, and there was only one company that was involved in computer games in Australia, Beam Software. When I say company, at the very beginning of the 80s, we're talking about 2 or 3, 5 people. We doubled in size every year, but it was only a very small beginning. So when we started, just like today, the Australian market wasn't large enough to sustain games development. So at Beam, we had to look to the international market, specifically UK and Europe. We were a small company competing for a share of the UK market against other competitors in the UK who obviously were closer to the consumers and in a better position to understand the changing marketplace, do deals with manufacturers, do deals with retailers. And yet, against these geographical odds, Beam Software managed to be one of the leading software developers in the early 80s. How did that happen? Well, my philosophy at Beam at the time was to try to ensure that the work we did was the best that it could be, and it's one of my proudest achievements that I was able to install that culture into the company. People worked hard and they tried to do their best in every way. I was always pushing people to ensure they didn't just do the job, but tried to be the best in the world. And after a while, I didn't need to do this anymore because it spread through the company with each member of the team pushing and egging each other to do better. The real rewards for Beam staff were not monetary, or the fact that there were free pizzas on Fridays. The real reward was the knowledge that they were extending themselves, stretching their talent as much as possible, and making a name for themselves internationally. Everybody was involved in every facet of games development, and we had to invent the genres, invent the gameplay, because there were no guidelines, no known genres. What you also need to understand at that time is that there was no known workflow for games development, no job descriptions, no previous experience to build on. No one had done it before. There's a Japanese proverb that says that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. Well, I'm glad to say that we at Beam were ready to develop games, and miraculously we found the best staff you could ever hope for. And it was at Beam that the first Australian games programmer was employed, William Tang, the first Australian graphics artist, Russell Comte, the first Australian quality control department, the first Australian games designer, the first Australian games producer, and so on. We had to invent the jobs and the jobs descriptions as we got along. And although in retrospect we can say that it was a golden age, and it's true that the people who worked at Beam at the time remember them fondly, we had major challenges to overcome. Later on, when you go and have a look at the games in the lab, I'm sure you'll be impressed all over again. And these amazing games run on computers with a total memory of only 48K or 64K of memory. If you're a programmer, you already know what these limitations mean. To put it in perspective, 48K is the memory needed for a medium-sized image on a web page today, or a normal Word document. And in that memory, not only did the entire program have to be written, but all the graphics had to be squeezed into that tiny space. You also need to understand the difficulties of working with the equipment of the time. I remember well, for example, when we bought our first external hard drive to speed up development. The size of the hard drive was 5 megabytes, and a little over 20 years ago it cost us $5,000. And that's not a mistake, it was 5 megabytes, not 5 gigabytes. Compare that to the situation today when you can buy hard drives for less than $1 per gigabyte. In other words, today you get 1,000 times the capacity for less than 1,000th of the cost. I think that the part of the reason that we were able to achieve fantastic results is that no one knew that it couldn't be done. If we'd employed experienced programmers, the projects would have been killed before they even started. As a result, people achieved the impossible. We nurtured and developed some of the giants in the computer industry at Beam. People who can only be described as geniuses of games development, like Philip Mitchell and Greg Barnett, Russell Comte and Greg Holland, just to name a few. And the others of you who are here and I didn't name, you know who you are. I'd also like to mention at this stage that it wasn't just the people who work at the coalface of games development, the programmers, the artists, the designers and so on, who were responsible for the success of companies such as Beam Software. But it's also the people who work behind the scenes. I'd like to specifically mention two people. Naomi Beeson, who was responsible for the marketing of Beam games in the early 80s and spent most of her evenings on the phone to the UK. And Adam Landsman, who started the company's in-house accountant and became my partner and Beam's managing director. Adam was the glue who held Beam together and an indefatigable ambassador for Beam and Australian games development. I'm sure that all of you who knew Adam still miss him greatly. And now, over 20 years later, there's a strong games development industry throughout Australia. It's another of my great pleasures to know that this industry grew out of Beam Software's experience, and that many of these companies were started or initially staffed by ex-Beam staff. So what does Beam's experience mean today? I think it means that if you find a new market or niche that you love and are passionate about, then go for it, even if the odds of an Australian company succeeding seem low. The talent and skills you can find in Australia are equal, if not better, than anywhere else in the world. You can turn the geographical distance from the rest of the world and small local market to your advantage. All you need to do is believe in yourself and nurture a culture where people want to be the best in the world. Thank you.
Know ACMI very well. The games are actually on exhibition in the room through the back there, and we'd love you to go back and have a play, have a drink, have an eat and enjoy yourselves. Thanks.